Imagine it's your first day at a new school and you're a little more nervous than the other new students. As you enter the new school building, many people are staring at you, and then they begin to call you names. And later on that day, as you sit all alone at lunch, several come by and begin to spit in your food and pour ketchup on you. You quickly jump up, rush home, change clothes, and return right back to school. The very next morning, before you can even get to your new high school building, several have lined up and begin to call you names and begin to throw eggs at you. You quickly turn around, rush home, and change clothes again. Well, this is exactly what Miss Josephine Boyd experienced when she became the first African American to attend the all-white school, which was then Greensboro Senior High School, which is now Grimsley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina, in 1957, 3 years after the desegregation law was passed. She stated it was a very painful and frightening experience for her. This was all according to a CBS April 2006 report on bravery versus bigotry. Mrs. Boyd was not alone. Many other African Americans throughout the whole nation faced similar adversities when they tried to attend school for the first time. A lot has changed in the past 50 years for the African Americans here in the U.S., but many feel that we still have a long way to go to reach full equality. I would like to take a few minutes to tell you what I have learned about desegregation. I'm starting with the passage of the desegregation laws. Desegregation of public school systems started with Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas in 1954. This overturned an 1896 ruling of Plessy versus Ferguson, which stated that public education was to be separate but equal according to the National Centers of Public Policy and Research. In the 1954 ruling, Chief Justice Warren stated that segregations of whites and colored children in the public schools has a detrimental effect upon the colored children. Now that we've seen the laws passed and stopped segregation in the public schools, let's move on to how it affects a person's life. In my interview with Mrs. Kay Hopkins, she told me that when she was young, her mother and father both worked part-time at a drive-in theater. Her father worked 6 nights a week and her mother worked 1 night a week in the concessions. She lived a few miles outside of Greensboro, kind of out in the country back then. She said that she remembered one night when she was in the concessions with her mom that she remembered a couple of black men tried to enter the movie theater or drive-in theater, and they were turned away because blacks weren't allowed back then. And she stated that it just seemed normal because that's the way it was back then. But she said over the next couple of years, as she got a little older, she began to question why blacks were being treated so differently. And this came more into effect as she was in the 8th grade in middle school. That was the first time that she had any black students attend the same school that she was at. And they were actually in a different building, in the high school building. She was in the 8th grade and they were in the high school. And she said that she's seen them around a lot through that school year, but she never actually witnessed them being harassed or anything, but felt that they probably were because that whole school year she never saw them with any other friends except for each other. Every time she did see them, they were either alone or with each other. Desegregation was a great ruling that should have taken place much sooner and enforced quicker. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 had sanctions to enforce desegregation, but it wasn't until the 1968 Supreme Court ruling that they provided guidelines for meeting desegregation, because the original 1954 ruling gave the school systems, each of them, their own time to have desegregation implemented within their school system. And many from 54 to 68 still had not imposed a desegregation law. But the 68 ruling had enforcements to it and made it mandatory that they were to do it quickly. It's amazing to see how far our country has come in the past 50 years in the civil rights movement. Many feel that we have came a long way, but we still need a long way to go to reach that full and true equality for African American community. And we need to remember to thank the grandfathers, grandmothers, and mothers and fathers of those who stood up over these last 50 years or more and fought for that. And we need to continue that fight today. And anytime we see these such harsh punishments for those who aren't being treated the same. And we should always remember those who have fought for the rights in face of such hard adversity and continue that fight today. Thank you.